Hey baby, this is Rob. Welcome to the back of the classroom. Today we're going to talk about be careful who you share information with. Now, it's okay to have secrets, and a secret is just something that's not meant to be known or seen by others, right? Now, some people might feel that's a controversial. How can you be successful, or how can you go around keeping secrets and you're supposed to let people know what's going on? And that there's some validity to that, but there's levels to it. There's something that people have to consider and not compartmentalize and understand everything has a time and a place. So, for example, let's look at what everybody knows or we can establish as a baseline. We all live in the United States and it's government. We all know the government don't tell us everything. And even within inside the government, there's levels of classification that they have, right? So there's classified. We don't get to hear about it. In fact, when the police do an investigation, they don't discuss their investigation. They have to keep that as privileged information, which some people might consider a secret. Then you have levels of the government. If you don't have a certain level of clearance, you don't need to know. It's not something they're going to give you. So they are compartmentalizing their own information just because, let's just say, if you're in a wartime and everybody knows everything. All you gotta do is capture one person and you can get all the information you want out of them, and then your defenses doesn't add up to anything because they know how to circumvent it and get around it. They know what your weapon systems are and how those things work, and they can deform their own defense against it. So now they have a better defense for your offense, and they have a better offense for your defense, and they know how to get through and cause damage and take over. So you really need to have, from a upper level management type of ideology, you got to have some type of compartmentalized information. You have to keep certain things secret. Now, look at, some people might go, all right, so let's look at doctors. Everyone I think should see a therapist. And a therapist is supposed to help you make sure mentally you're fit, you're cool, you're good to go, right? Not just when you go through something in the street and it's mandatory. The same way, if you get into an accident, it's mandatory you see a physical doctor. Or if you get into an altercation and something happens to your mouth, you have to see a dentist. So instead of waiting for something negative to impact your life that forces you to see or consult these doctors in these specialized areas, you should take it upon yourself to just do your own physical or your own check, your own healthness check or wellness check. Let me make sure physically I'm good. Let me go see a doctor. Everything in life is two-step: preparation and action. So preparation would be your diet, and action would be, or a version of the action would be, maintenance. So when you see a dentist, what do you eat? Because certain foods can stain your teeth, certain foods can corrode your teeth. And if you want to indulge in those things, then the maintenance part of it would be cleaning, brushing, flossing, right? Some people like using charcoal toothpaste or charcoal bristle brushes. Some people don't want to use certain toothpaste. Some people might want fluoride-free toothpaste versus toothpaste with fluoride in it. And then again, you have the toothpaste with the charcoal. So let's say you choose to double down on the charcoal. You get you a charcoal toothbrush and some charcoal toothpaste. Can't get mad at you, right? It's just your level of maintenance that you choose to follow. Physical doctor. You get into a car accident, you have to see a doctor. Now they're going to do an evaluation. But that's based on your injury. And then they're going to look and see if there's anything else wrong that they might be able to correct and step in and put you on the right track. But that's also twofold. Because if you go to a doctor for preventative maintenance, just to make sure your physical body is okay, think of your body as a vehicle, you need to make sure your body can do what it is you want it to do in the way that you want to do it. So your doctor's going to come in, height, weight, blood, see what's in your blood, check your tongue, check areas, make sure, there's nothing wrong with your exterior. And as far as they can see, that's in their craft, right? Then they're going to ask you questions. What do you eat? You exercise. Are you on any type of drugs? These things, they need to know what are you putting into your system so they can look for an outward situation that might come up that they can affect and change and help you get better at, or something that they might not be able to see and run some more tests just to make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. So you want to be free flowing with that information. So you see a therapist, get your mind right. You don't want to end up being under pressure and then you're going through life spiraling out of control, and then somebody got to pull you out of a situation and then put you in one of these facilities so they can monitor you. So see a therapist. That therapist is going to ask you questions. Now, of course, it takes time to feel comfortable. This is a lot of information you are holding on close to because a lot of it has to do with your past. And a lot of things you might not think is wrong, or a lot of things you've held in, whether it's trauma or whether it's something you was told not to say and you just stayed to that, and you stayed true and you didn't say anything. But you don't know what's causing you difficulties or issues later on. It's like you're starting from scratch. If you tried at the bake cake, you wouldn't know if all the ingredients you put in it was accurate. But luckily we have cookbooks. We have somebody who tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed and came up with a way to make cake. And then you have other people who look on those ingredients and improve on them. But where's your blue book? Where's your blueprint? Where's your cookbook to your mental stability? We don't have one. So see a therapist. And when you get comfortable, you start off with, your name, how you are, what you like, the way you introduce yourself to regular people. Build a repertoire and then dive in. Tell them about something that happened from your earliest memory, and then give them a timeline of the earliest you can remember till now. And what they've learned to do is help you understand what was good for you and what wasn't good for you. What has happened to you that led you to making decisions you're making now. And this is specifically to the people who are in that field. So you'll tell a therapist about your past. You'll tell a dentist about what you ate and maintenance of your mouth. And you would tell a physical doctor, your primary physician, what you eat, what drugs you're taking, your physical fitness level, and the exercises that you perform. Because some people take medication for mental illness, pain, different things. If you go to a new doctor, you have to give them all this information. You have to let them know. So I'm not saying you may take Tylenol once a week because you get constant headaches. It's a drug. It's something you take. Don't feel ashamed in explaining things to doctors so they can understand, because they might be able to give you something that's better and that helps and that clears things up. You might be stressed out and not even know it. And you're getting tension headaches every Thursday because you're worried about payday and the bills you got to cover. Like, there are things that you might not be aware of that these people in that area, it's okay to share that information with. You might not want to share that information with your boss, with your co-workers, with your classmates, with your mom and dad. Maybe if they're not on the same level with you, you might not feel too comfortable. But how do you get to the point where you learn you should go there? And at that point, I would say you should know your audience. You should, in my opinion, position yourself around people who want the best for you, right? So your inner circle, I feel, should be people who consist of people you can give bad news to and they listen. They don't try to take over a conversation and tell you how they went through something, or somebody they know went through something, and derail your conversation, as in to take over and talk about something else. Now, if they want to help you feel lighthearted about it, like, people go through that, it's okay, I'm here, like, tell me more, like, let's figure this out so you can get your mind around it so you're not stressing about it all day. It's great, right? It's normal. Those things happen. Tell me more, because we're going to help you figure this out. Not, let's point the finger at this one and, oh, these people are bad, and, oh, listen, it's a situation that happened to somebody. We should be courteous of their feelings, not rally them up to make them point the finger at somebody else and take that negative energy and give it to somebody else. We want to let go of negative energy. We want to be more positive minded. We want to think clearer so we can have positive outcomes and results, right? So a friend who's gonna sit there and rally you up and rah 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 rah, we should go get them. That's just adding more tension and more stress and more negative energy to a situation that it doesn't need to be. Sometimes we could just take information in and listen to the people that we're listening to and help them see clearer or help them feel better and help them understand, look, all right, it's a situation you're going through. I'm sorry you're going through that. And we can help figure this out by clearing your mind, understanding what parts we had to play in it or that person. And the rest of it belongs to the other person or people or the environment, right? It's cold outside and I hate the cold. Okay. Well, what we could do to help you with that is get you some thermals or get you a better coat or jacket or something you need that can insulate the heat and keep you warm inside. Not, oh, let's blame the weather or let's put more stress and say you got to move and go somewhere warmer now. That's more they got to contemplate and figure out. Let's get them to a good place positively. Let's help them understand the situation that they're in so that we can help fortify them. And then once they're comfortable, ask them questions about, well, what is it you prefer to do or what would you like to? Let them come up with their answers because everyone's lived a different life. Everyone's going through different things. So the way you might want to go about doing it, if you ever give anyone any type of life lessons that you've gone through without telling somebody else what to do, you'll clearly understand they're not built like you. So you can't tell them to do what you do as if they can pull it off the way you did. People are different. But sometimes you got to give people motivation and understanding. I'm going through that. It's normal. Like, you know, you just got to figure out a way. And then when they ask, well, what did you do? How'd you get through it? You can tell them what you did and let them think it through and reevaluate themselves and be like, yeah, I ain't built like that. I don't think I'm that strong. I don't think I have those resources. And what'll happen is they'll start looking for ways they could get that strong or they can find their own resources to help improve their situation. Find somebody who's willing to help you celebrate good news. That's another trait I think you should look for in people. If I tell somebody, because sometimes you might be scared to tell somebody good news, right? And I've gone through that. I've told somebody, hey, listen, you know, thinking about starting a podcast, and I wanna connect with more people. I got some backlash. I didn't think I would get. Oh, why you want to start a podcast? Everybody else got a podcast, and you know, like, where was the support? Where was the, oh, you could do it. You know, you got a good message. You could speak articulately. Like, I've had people say that, and I've had people say, okay. And I don't ask for much. I mean, this is a platform where I'm sharing information. I've gone to school. I've had conversations with people in the back of the classroom. I've go to work and we have conversations and we're engaged in debates and understanding one's point of view. And I tell everybody, listen, if we're going to have a conversation, we can't get emotional. We can't have an emotional conversation because at the end of the day, we're just exchanging information. We've all gone through things, seen things, interacted with things on a different level. I don't know everything. You don't know everything. But if I can learn from you and you can learn from me, we're better than we were before we had the conversation. So, and I've also been in rooms with people in a different level that I technically shouldn't have been in to other people's standards, but I was there and I heard things that I've never heard in other people's conversations. So I try to bring it back to every other area that I'm in to be like, yo, do y'all guys know about this? And how do y'all feel about that? And then it's a new conversation that people have that they wouldn't have had unless I brought it to them. Like, they were unaware of these conversations were happening. And I feel like that's the division between people. Everybody don't know what's going on, so some people are lost in the sauce. Now, I get it, granted, depending on what it is we're talking about, some things aren't people's business, especially when it's personal. But if you work in a job, if you have a career, and your boss knows you need to make a certain level of money, a certain level of clients, a certain level of an audience, and you're unaware of that, they're just telling you to push hard, push hard, push hard. Do better, do better, do better. You're like, yo, I'm doing my best. Like, what do they want? Like, how much could they ask for? And then 6 months down the line, you realize your company's shutting down. And you're like, damn, that's crazy. I wish There was something we could do, but I guess I got to find another job. But this was something you were great at, right? Although there was those uncomfortable moments in time where you might have gone through something and you might not have agreed with it, you really enjoyed your job. And then to come find out, you got to look for something else. But if your boss said, hey guys, we got to, in order to stay in business, just had a meeting, I'm, doing some resources. We got to reach a different level of audience. We got to bring in a certain amount of revenue, and we have to be able to stay consistent. So if we're going to stay afloat, we got to do better. Now you know something different than just do better, do better, do better. And now you know you want to perform better. You want to give your best. You want to dig a little bit deeper. You want to find more resources. You'll even go outside of your norm of what your job description might be just to help the person doing something in some other location and area, just to help things be successful. But that information was necessary in order for you to feel that motivation. So don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to share information, because if you look ahead and you realize what's better for one might be better for all. What is useful to one person could be useful to somebody else. And even if they don't use it the same way you would, they can find their own way, and then they can come up with the means to getting the things that they want and need, right? Some people have a job because they can't be creative on their own to do certain things, but they're really good at being helpful. So that helpful person could help you, the entrepreneur, the boss, or the leader, to continue to be successful because you got somebody behind you who's willing to back you and help you and support you in the way that you need. I know a lot of bosses have secretaries. They can't remember everything. Need somebody to jot down notes, put things in the schedule, reminders, because they got so much things going on. I know a guy who's just overlooking things every time, and then sometimes you send him a reminder, and he's like, "Oh, I almost forgot about that. Thank you." Boom, 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 boom. Right? I utilize my calendar on my phone. I put things in the calendar. Why? Because it's not that I have a bad memory. I just don't want to ever forget it, or I want to keep that in mind, or I want to schedule around certain things. I want to look for moments where I can have things and be more successful and have the things that I need. But of course, there needs to be some schedule. There needs to be some organization. And I want things to be smooth. I don't want things bumping into one another. Right? So having the right people around you, your inner circle, people who you can talk to about bad news and they listen, good news and they help you celebrate, right? If you're around somebody and y'all are just going through it and going through it, and when good things happen, they're like, look, we had a long struggle, but we made it. We came through this successful. Let's celebrate. Let's have a good time. Because life can't just be all about the downs, the hard times, the struggle. We got to celebrate when it's time to celebrate. We got to take every victory and celebrate every victory, because life can't just be this 9 to 5 rat race without celebrating and having a good time about the things that you've accomplished. If you look back to when you was 10, when you graduated with honors, and you realized when you made it to 15, unfortunately, a lot of people still aren't. A lot of people wasn't with you that you started with, right? You graduate high school and you look back and you realize there's a lot of people that's not here that you're celebrating with, that you came up with. You're celebrating with a lot of people. It's your pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller. At the rate black people are getting killed, incarcerated, you start to realize the older you get, the smaller your circles become. And you'll start to notice that a lot of your friends and family just not around because of unforeseen circumstances. And it's unfortunate that these things happen. So we got to look to the good. We have to celebrate. We have to make sure we keep ourselves aligned with what it is we want, and be protective over the things that we know and that we're going to push ahead for. Because on the other side of that, you have people who are jealous and envious, right? We spoke about the good. You want to talk to people, get the help you need. So you got to be open and honest with them, but you're prioritizing the information you're giving them, because this is what's necessary for you to do your job, to give me an accurate, diagnosis of certain things. And then you have work, and you have your personal life. Even if you have kids, or you're a child yourself, or you're looking up to your parent, because everybody's a child to someone. But believe it or not, once you step outside your family's house, you're just another person. No one thinks to look at you once you're no longer a kid that you're still somebody's child. Everyone is somebody's child, but the world's not going to look at you that way, right? Because when you was a little kid, oh, where's your person's parents? But once you get to 18, 19, that's done. Oh, you should know better. They're not looking for your parents. They're not even talking to your parents. They're looking at you, right? So when you start dissecting it and you start realizing there's some people I need to talk to, and on the other side, there's people you don't need to talk to. You got people who will grow up with you and look at you in your situation and go, well, who are you to have that? It's not for you to decide who they are. They are who they are, and you need to identify that. So start off small. Hey, got a job today, and see if people don't celebrate, or if people don't or what you gonna do. And if people start doing no belittling by saying you're a little this and you're a little that, or you got you a little job, you got a little money, you think you all of that. You don't need them type of people around you, because that belittling mentality, that attitude and energy is only gonna take away from your joy. And life is hard enough on its own. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that type of energy in their life when they're trying to do better. You want people around you who's gonna, I'm glad you got the job. When did you start? Is there anything I can do to help you? You need a tie, or is there any supply that you might need? It's like you want people who's gonna help motivate you and support you, right? You want to have people around you who's going to, again, be proud of you and want the best for you. So when you start coming across people who trying to downplay your success or not help you celebrate, they're taking away from your joy, it's okay to separate yourself from it. Unfortunately, those people aren't always strangers. Sometimes they're family members. Sometimes they're people you grew up with, friends, neighbors, people in your community, and maybe your job. It's an unfortunate situation, but it's still true. And again, you can't control that and you can't feel bad. Unfortunately, you've outgrown certain people. Some people are still where they're at and they haven't yet found their niche. They haven't found their motivation, and that's okay. Everyone's life is different, so you have to let them be where they're at. But you, on the other hand, have to stay true to this is your life, this is your race, this is where you're going in life. You can't deviate from it just because the people around you or the people you started with isn't there. This goes back to the information. You can share how they can be successful by your examples and things you've gone through. But if they don't get the motivation to come with and do those things for themselves or find a way to make themselves successful, there's nothing you can do about that. You have to keep pushing forward and keep sharing what you can share with people to motivate people to come together and work with you. Because the jealousy turns into the backstabbing. It turns into the envy. And before you know it, let's say you wanted to build a business. The next thing you know, someone's taking your ideas. There's a patent office that's created just because people will take your ideas to profit off of them. So that goes into you making sure the information you have, you keep sacred, right? Anyone who's ever found something that they really liked, and then you like, oh, look what I found. And then somebody goes, oh, that's mine, I dropped it. That's not true. And we know that's not true. But for some reason, we can't call it. People do that. People will try to take what you have just because they don't feel like you should have it. Or they want it and they don't care what you're going through and what you've been through. Right? I know people who's started a weight loss journey and then they get called all types of names and criticized about what they did to get there. It's not your life. You have nothing to do with them in their weight loss journey. They want to get fit. They found a motivation. They have things going on that they want to do and be successful with. And here somebody goes trying to criticize them and tell them about themselves as if it affects them in their personal life. You could have went from eating 3 meals a day to 1 meal a day. You could be on a treadmill 3 different times for 2 hours a day and nobody sees your struggle. It's like when people have babies. No one cares about the labor pains. They only there to see the baby and, oh, the beautiful baby, without realizing how much or what you went through in labor. Or maybe the 9 months before that when your ankles were swollen, when that baby was leaning on your bladder and had you running to the bathroom every 15, 20 minutes. Like, no one's paying attention to that. They only want to see those results, and that's all they're there for. And then when that baby's born and after a year, you realize all the people that was there, if you need anything, let me know. They don't want to babysit. They're not coming around. They're not being part of that child's life. They're not as active as they claim to have been when that baby was born. So you got to be wary of the people who show up just to show up when something's happening. They want to see what's going on. They want to see if it's really true. They want to see if all the things that they're hearing, or they just might come to criticize. If they got nothing nice to say, they won't not say anything. They'll say something with an undertone, and people will think, oh, well, they weren't saying it in a mean way. No. I do understand there's a tone. I do understand there's contextual words that is used. And I tell people all the time, if you go to court, the stenographer is going to take down what you said. They're not going to jot down notes as far as your attitude goes. They're only going to take down what you said. So I put first what you say, and then I look very second to how you said it. So I'm looking for what you're saying. I don't care if it's a joke or however you're putting it across. If I'm sharing a positive message and you come to tear it down by dissecting it and trying to criticize and critique it, you don't need it. If I'm celebrating, celebrate with me. If you're not celebrating with me, I'm gonna move you to the side, because that type of negative energy nobody needs. Nobody needs it. Nobody wants it. And believe it or not, there have been so many things that and people that have had serious downfalls because of them being around people who is jealous and envy of them. People have been robbed, people have been killed, people have been incarcerated because other people wanted what they had and did something to orchestrate their downfall. Totally unnecessary. But yet, they didn't take the time to really look at the people around them, or they felt that there was so much money that needed to be made, they didn't care. And, we all learned at a young age, all money ain't good money. So just because it looks profitable, don't mean you should go for it. Don't be an opportunist. Be well thought out and calculated in what you do and what you won't do. Sometimes you got to walk away from something because that's just not right. And you don't need it. Sometimes you got to look at later on down in life and determine what that path is going to lead for you. Right? Because we all have a destination in mind. How are we going to get there? You can be righteous, you can be moral, you can be immoral, you can, do some things that are questionable, but are you going to be happy with looking yourself in the mirror once you get to your destination? Are you going to be marketable? Are people going to want to be around you after you've gone through the process of what you've gone through to be where you're at? Some people might look negatively on it, in which case you made choices, that's on you. But if you were around people who loved you, who cared about you, and you gave them information about what your thoughts and your ideas were, and again, this is just a small group of people. If your mother and father are supportive, great. If they're the type of people to give you positive energy and support you, give you information to help you understand where you're at and where you want to be, and give you options on how to getting there, great. Have them in your circle. If you got friends, like-minded, where you need to be motivational. Hey, I don't want you to make mistakes. They're going to let you know, hey, you got a family you got to think about. And look, you want your education, don't party too long because you got to, you want to successfully get through your schooling so you can start the things you want to do, right? Do the things you need to do first so you can do the things you want to do after. I believe everything is a two-step in life, so you want to be able to balance those things out, priorities, and then what comes next. So let's be careful with who we share information with. Everything isn't everybody's business. And some things we have to just let the results tell people, right? You don't have to tell everybody your next move. In fact, that could be crippling to a lot of situations. You tell somebody, you know what? If you do this again, I'm going to react like this. You just told them your battle strategy. Now they know how to defend whatever it is you're going to do the next time they choose to do something. Or they can prepare themselves for it so that your counter isn't effective to them. Sit back, relax, monitor their energy, see what they do, see how they react, and then act accordingly. Sometimes you got to stop talking to people and let them deal with everybody else in the world so they can go, that's crazy. I don't like how that feels. And then when they come back around you, be like, well, that's what you was doing to me. And I ain't like it, so I had to fall back. But, and just keep that energy, because you need to maintain your own peace of mind. Your peace of mind is so important. And giving people too much allows them in, and then people can start to manipulate you. So with that being said, let's stop and think about what it is we want to do, how we want to go about doing it, and let's look for people who can be instrumental in our development. Now, we'll never know, but you don't have to give everybody everything when you come up with it. Sometimes you can just ask people questions about it and see how they feel about it to determine if you want to give them certain information. So what I learned to do was, hey, what do you think about podcasts? Oh, they're this, and this. Okay. It's gotten to a point where I have a podcast. When I put a new episode out, I share it. I ask people to share it, but I don't demand it. But I've come across people who will play it again with somebody and get them to listen to it, and then they'll have the conversation, which is really what I wanted. I wanted people to just have those conversations, and believe it or not, two people just sitting down and having a conversation about what somebody else said can help join two people to be like, hey, we're more like-minded and different than I thought. But then you realize they can still sit down and have a conversation with one another and be productive. The love isn't lost. The understanding is there. You see things this way. You see things that way. I can understand you and you can understand me, and then we can continue to move forward. And in certain situations, I know a person's strengths and weakness, and then they can determine who's going to do what depending on the situation. But because you are willing to be around people who are different, you are in a situation where some people can take charge in certain situations because you're aware of their strengths and your weaknesses, or your strengths and their weaknesses. So without being around people who are different, the outcome for everybody will be the same. Because if everybody was built the same way, Papu said this, everybody would die the same day. But everyone's different. So let's be okay with being different. Let's keep certain things to the heart, and let's share what needs to be shared with those who can be helpful and instrumental to us. And let's push for having a better day. With that being said, I appreciate y'all if y'all made it to this far on the podcast. Rails Locker is still up and running. I appreciate everybody who's contributed. That comes and helps the platform grow. And we just want to make sure everybody has and gets something cool that helps support the podcast. So if you're not sharing, check out Rails Locker. I put the link in the description, and I appreciate you. Thank you.